Thank you for inviting me to speak on de-dollarization. As this issue involves the most powerful international economic forces and fundamental issues of Marxist theory, practical conclusions on de-dollarization can be worked out against this background. Applying Marxism and integrating it with China's national conditions produced China's unparalleled economic success. Therefore, as Xi Jinping stated, our study of political economy must be based on Marxist political economy and not any other economic theory. Marxist economics, including analysis of money, is the technical working out of the consequences of Marxist proof that increasing socialization of labor is the driving force of human development. Today, this leads to policies including the following, which explain China's economic success. First, state ownership of large companies, those with high socialization of labor. Within that framework, during socialism primary stage, a private sector will exist. Second, transition from labor-intensive to capital-intensive development. In Marxist terms, a rising organic composition of capital, which is the basis for transition from low to high value-added production. Third, creating a unified national market by infrastructure investment and other measures. Fourth, increase in participation in international division of labor, that is globalization. Fifth, increase in the population's education and training, the increase in socialization of labor itself. Within that framework, money's role is, in Marxist words, to be the universal equivalent. It must be able to purchase all goods and services. This universal equivalent is necessary because without its existence, exchange would have to be via barter, making efficient economic functioning impossible. De-dollarization must be placed within money's fundamental character. In the current international monetary system, and as everyone knows, the dollar is overwhelmingly dominant. In 2022, it was involved in 88% of foreign exchange transactions and accounts for 59% of all foreign exchange reserves, 3 times as much as the next currency, the euro, with none other reaching 10%. Relating these facts to de-dollarization, part of the discussion regarding this seems to envisage that what is involved in changing this situation is some technical issue of avoiding US-controlled payment systems such as SWIFT, that a relatively immediate solution exists such as trading in common currency, local currencies, or that new multinational currencies may be successfully created by various groupings. This analysis is wrong. What is involved is in the fundamental issue of any monetary system which reflect the world's most powerful economic forces. What is involved is also not what is desirable to eliminate the dollar's international role. It is what is practically possible in what time scale, and therefore what role de-dollarization can play in current strategy. Objective analysis shows 2 conclusions. First, it is crucial to maintain a country's national monetary sovereignty and to build alternatives to dollar payments to allow countries faced with US economic and financial sanctions to avoid them. This is practically possible, as Russia, Iran, and other states shows. But while de-dollarization for such countries is crucial, any country not in the dollar system at present pays a significant economic price. Second, countries will not want to pay that price unless it is necessary if they are subject to US economic sanctions. Therefore, most countries will not wish to participate in de-dollarization. There will be no general de-dollarization in this period. The reasons for this real situation will be shown below. US control of the world's most used currency for international transactions is undoubtedly one of its strongest weapons. This issue has become more urgent as the US increasingly uses this weapon. By 2024, the US had imposed economic sanctions against over 25 countries, including China, Russia, and Iran. It is dangerous and unacceptable that the international means of payment is controlled by a country using it not in line with global interests, but to unilaterally pursue purely national goals, including attacks on other countries. The US gains immense benefits from the dollar's position. In 2022, it received $1 trillion in capital inflows, a significant part due to the dollar's international role. These facts have led some to propose a general de-dollarization of international payments constitutes a key task for the next period. But this confuses what is desirable with what is possible. Because something is unjust does not mean it can be successfully eliminated in any short-term framework. Furthermore, from the fact that the dollar is such a powerful US weapon does not follow that the best way to deal with this is a frontal attack on the dollar system. In war, a frontal assault on the enemy's strongest point, rather than first attempting to attack and overwhelm weaker ones, is rarely the best strategy for victory. An attempted frontal attack on the strongest fortress may instead end up simply with casualties amongst carrying out those carrying out that assault. Instead, the two conclusions already stated flow from the situation. The importance of developing alternatives to dollar payments for countries facing actual or potential sanctions, but that in this period, general de-dollarization will not occur. These fundamental realities all flow from the fact that money must be a universal equivalent, able to purchase all other goods and services. It is the consequences flowing from this which explains the fundamental historical fact that in more than 2 centuries, in chronological succession, only 2 entirely dominant international monetary systems have existed. First, the gold-pound standard. Second, the dollar standard. It explains why the transition between these occurred only via cataclysmic events, the 2 world wars, and in historical terms in an extremely short time period. In 1913, the gold-pound system was dominant, and from 1945, the dollar standard was unchallenged. These features flow from the character of money as a universal equivalent, and this fundamental feature also determines de-dollarization's prospects. The most immediate consequence of the fact that money must be a universal equivalent is that countries will not wish to hold countries that cannot be easily traded internationally. Such holdings can only be used to purchase goods from the country which issued the currency, making it not a universal equivalent. This also means attempts to create artificial block currencies, such as any proposed BRICS currency, the Sucre, etc., will not succeed. Even if they were accepted by all bloc members, they will not be accepted by other states, so they cannot function as a universal equivalent. The reason one regional currency, the euro, works such is only because its member countries are at similar stages of economic development, making them capable of maintaining stable exchange rates, which the single currency ultimately expresses, and are such a large part of the world economy that all countries wishing to purchase goods from them. This does not apply to other proposed currency blocks. The fact that money must, in Marx's terms, be a universal equivalent also affects bilateral trade and investment. If trade and investment balances were equal between countries, no problem would exist. They would purchase equivalent amounts of each other's products. But in practice, one country runs a surplus and another a deficit. If a currency cannot be traded internationally, but trade and investment is imbalanced, this means one of the countries involved in the trade might be accepting currency which is in practice worthless, as it cannot be used elsewhere. That means one country is subsidizing the other, which, except in rare circumstances, is unsustainable. But even if currency can be traded universally, most currencies do not maintain stable exchange rates. This reveals confusion in much talk about use of local currencies. In fact, these are typically not symmetrical bilateral relations, with both currencies being equal. If a country is forced to accept a currency which is devaluing, this means it is accepting a loss on transactions. For example, publicity was given to Russia and India agreeing to trade in their currencies. But during 2022, the Indian rupee devalued by 10% against the dollar, while the ruble rose by 2.7%. When it received rupees, Russia in such a period lost 10% compared to the sum it would have received in dollars, and almost 13% compared to if it had been paid in rubles. Therefore, Russia has requested that it is not paid in rupees. Many so-called agreements to trade in local currencies are therefore not really that. They are, to avoid losses, practically agreements to use the stronger currency of the pair. For example, Argentina and China's previous agreement included to trade in the strong RMB. If China were forced to accept payment in the rapidly devaluing Argentinian peso, it would be losing on the transactions and subsidizing Argentina. This applies in all cases where the common currencies do not have stable exchange rates, the great majority of currencies. In bilateral relations, alternatively, the stable currency of a third country can be used, for example, the RMB. This creates a limited opening for the RMB, but it only accounts for 3% of foreign exchange reserves, and it could not greatly increase its role unless China's capital account were liberalized, which would be economically extraordinarily damaging for China, with an exit of tens of trillions of yuan from its economy. But in any case, this is not a use of common currencies. It is merely the choice of use of an external currency other than the dollar. This fact that exchange rates are unstable also poses risks for any international institution attempting to lend in local currencies. Any devaluation of such currencies would lead to losses. To be extremely clear, this does not mean that developing means of payment avoiding the dollar is not important and urgent. On the contrary, such de-dollarization is vital for countries subject to US financial transactions, such as Russia or Iran. It is also necessary for China to technically prepare these, given US aggression against China and the increasing resort of the US to unilateral, more radical financial sanctions, blocking of SWIFT payments, seizure of foreign exchange reserves, etc. But this is for geopolitical reasons. But the large majority of countries are not at present affected by US sanctions. De-dollarization incurs significant costs, risks for no great benefit. Therefore, the great majority of countries will not de-dollarize. De-dollarization as an international economic system will only take place when the dollar is replaced by another single price unit, probably the RMB, but this will not occur in the short term. In summary, de-dollarization is highly important and urgent for a small number of countries, but general de-dollarization will not take place in the next period. Therefore, while technical creation of alternatives to dollar payments is important and urgent for countries which actually or potentially face US sanctions, which includes China, the most successful socialist economies, in particular China, but also Vietnam, pursued Marxist economic policies, but did not pursue the path of voluntary de-dollarization. For the reasons given, other countries will follow the same path. Development of both tracks, how practically to avoid sanctions, and the non-possibility of general de-dollarization in the present period is therefore crucial. Thank you.